I just have one thing to say to everybody. This is your team, and it's here to stay.
You are now listening to Sports Talk 916 with Greg Bull and Coach Greg Veroza.
If you'd like to participate in the show, there are a couple of ways to do it. If you want to contact us on Twitter, use the show's Twitter address, which is @SportsTalk916. For Greg B, go to @MrChief916. And for me, Coach Greg, it's @Greg Veroza. And Veroza is VAROZZA. And if you want to chat live with us, the best place to go is go to the Mixler page and hit chat. There you'll see all of us chatting together as the show goes on. Chatting together is one big family unit. I said unit.
Yeah, you did.
Good evening, boys and girls. It's another Sunday night, 8 o'clock, and y'all know what time that is. It's Sports Talk 916 time.
That's right. What's up?
What's up? My name is Coach Greg, right here. Coach Greg Veroza. Right over there, Mr. Chief, Greg Bull.
I'm about to change my name to Announcer Greg. I'm not really.
No, you're not. No. We need to go into that later on.
Winning Announcer Greg.
Yeah, you need to quit while you're only 5 games under 500.
Right.
And together we are the two-headed monsters of Greg that we call Sports Talk 916.
That's right.
This is episode 206.2.
Right.
Because we did one on Friday, and if you missed it, you need to go find it. We did a preview of the Sacramento River Cats season. Got a tour of the facility of Rayleigh Field.
The new storefronts.
New
all the
storefronts.
Changes.
Yeah, no more concession stands. Concession stands are all gone. They're now storefronts.
Yep. And actually, I kind of like that.
I do too.
It's a really cool concept. You'll need to check it out. Video is up on sportstalk916.com. The audio is also isolated on sportstalk916.com. It's also on Facebook and on iTunes. So
cool.
Anywhere you want to look for it, you're going to be able to find it.
And if you're interested at all in going to any River Cats games, it's a good listen because you're going to find out the changes they made to the stadium. You're going to find out where to go for parking and how you can get free parking. The free parking for everybody is gone this year, unfortunately. Yep. That kind of sucks. But there is a way to get free parking, so you need to go onto the River Cats website and check that out. Tickets are available, and we really encourage you to go check out as many games as you can because...
and if you're there, find us.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there somewhere.
Yep. All right, so big show tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about
show.
We're going to talk about the Sacramento Kings. We're going to talk about the Sirens. About the Republic FC, the Raiders, a little bit about the Niners, and then we're going to end the show with the Giants. So literally a little bit of everything.
It's a smorgasbord, a potpourri.
A potpourri, that's right.
A potpourri. Potpourri.
Potpourri.
Didn't your wife go to a potpourri party or something?
Yeah, kind of.
Where's the thing that she promised me? She promised me there's something for me to enjoy in here.
She had to order it.
Oh, that sucks.
It's an anniversary thing. Let's go a little bit out of order. Let's start with last night, Sacramento Sirens. We're going to kind of do some of the quick hitters. Home opener last night was at
Kennedy High School.
Kennedy High School. They played the Phoenix Phantoms. Started off a little slow. Things got a little testy early. Phantoms were pissed off bunch of ladies.
They were a little grumpy, weren't they?
Pinning down the players, and it was a nice little atmosphere. Our sound system was terrible. If you were at the game last night, and there was a good crowd last night, I apologize for the buzzing. It was not our fault.
No, it was. The buzzing was free. We didn't charge for the buzzing.
Right, all free for buzzing. We were helping the bees.
Yeah.
Why is Rosa such a good mood tonight? That's a really good question, James. I don't know. I think it's because he napped all day.
I did literally nothing but play online poker and sleep all day.
Nice.
Didn't win any money because I wasn't playing for real money and lost my ass anyway.
Oh, so you probably won a shitload and didn't win anything.
I kind of fell asleep in the middle of a game, so I kind of turned it off. Yeah.
What's up, Barn Bomb? Live from L.A., Barnbom's listening in.
Nice. Michael.
So, just of it, basically, we called all of last season for the Sirens, and they got their asses handed to them.
Basically?
For lack of a better term.
They were not good.
They were not good. They had a very small roster. They were just getting ran up and down the field. Last night, though, different story. 21-18.
Yeah, we were interrupted there for a minute.
I love Barnbom's pictures from Staples, as did I. Barnbom's pictures, everything looked good from Staples Center.
I do have to, I did see a big group shot, and Mike was, he was very nattily clad. He was the only one that was dressed up in a tie.
Barnbom was always a handsome fella.
He is a handsome chap.
Yep,
he's a handsome chap.
But 21-18 final score for the Sirens last night. Start the season, their young season, 1-0. So congratulations to the Sac Sirens.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and put it out there like we talked about last night. I really hope that when they review film, that they just mute it. And I'm sure they do, because they don't want to hear all the crowd chanting.
No,
and all that other crowd.
They really don't want to hear the two public address announcers
yelling at each other and, telling each other they screwed up. Like, specifically, when I made a call for the interception at the end of the game, and I said, number 7, Jessica Gonzalez's pass intercepted by 86, Svetlana Stefanchuk, turnover on downs. And I'm like, that was, and Greg's like, really? I'm like, hey, I was in the moment. I got to call 3 touchdowns last night. I don't think.
And you did. You know what? You did very good. Those touchdown calls were very good. And your first down calls started getting a little bit of reaction.
Yeah, even from the players. That's why I was like, ooh, I made a good call there.
Yeah.
But I don't think I called 3 touchdowns in the history of us doing the games we've done.
Maybe 3, and that's it.
Yeah. So it was exciting.
We do have one little thing that got to me a little bit.
Yeah. You want to cover that? The O'Brien group?
Oh, no. That was something else. We'll get into that in a second. No. So, in the third quarter, your score.
Oh, yeah.
The Phoenix, whatever they are,
Phantoms.
18, your Sirens, 21.
Yeah, I messed that up. Yep, that's not bad.
Yeah. So, that's kind of a rookie. And then, to top it off, but it wasn't that bad, because I came home and I was watching Channel 13 news.
Okay.
They had some talking head, regular, just news person doing the sports. She goes through a whole set of highlights for the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's. And the final score, your Giants came back to win 6-7.
That's way worse.
And the Oakland A's lost 2 games to the Dodgers and somebody else by identical scores of 6-11. Wow. And I thought, wow, I maybe I'm wrong that Greg got it right after all, because the chick on the news. Now,
TJ, yes, they still give out peanuts in Southwest.
To her credit, I mean, she's not a sports person. She's smoking hot, and that's, I'm sure, how she got her job.
What I don't know if that was...
That was a couple weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's the first time I've seen it. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Sorry, squirrel. Go ahead.
But anyway, yeah. So she gave their.
No,
yeah, that Mike Barnbaum look.
No, I have no problem with Barnbaum here. I have a problem with society. TJS, do they still give out peanuts on Southwest flights that haven't flown since 2007? And I said, yes, they still give out peanuts. Barnbaum says, yes, unless a passenger indicates in their reservation that they have a peanut dust allergy, then pretzels are the only snack available on short flights.
Yep.
F you, peanut allergy, fake-ass allergy person. We'll get into that another goddamn day. TJ says they haven't had a sports department at 13 and 15 years.
I know, but they really don't have a sports department now.
Right. Let's see. Moving on. Republic FC.
Who?
Sacramento Republic FC. They beat the Seattle Sounders 2-1 today. So open their season on a strong note as well.
I was kind of disappointed in Jogonitis today. He posted something about the Seattle Sounders and having a big, huge crowd.
They had no crowd.
They had no crowd, right. And, where was the big crowd that Seattle always has? Got to remember, this is their AAA team, so it's not the same group.
No, but their AAA team boasts about having a very, very, very rowdy following as well. And they were way under. Were
they?
Yeah.
Wow. See, I don't follow that stuff, so I don't know.
Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings real quick here. Down 18 with 5 minutes to go against the Clippers
Which
today.
is when I actually turned it off.
I left it on, and I watched, and it got me thinking because one young individual on this team, this is after Scal had already fouled out, and George, I just texted you, we're going to be a little bit beyond 8:20 like I told you to talk Giants. We're going to try to hammer through the rest of this stuff real quickly here. Down 18. 5 minutes ago, go on a 22-3 run to close out the game, and Buddy Hield blew me away. Comes down, he's missed a ton of shots. He hasn't scored but 4 points the whole game. Fourth quarter drops 11. Might have been more since I saw the graphic. Hits a big three. Clippers get lazy on the inbound. He runs up, steals the ball, hits another big three. He should have been given a foul on the play as well. Cuts the lead to 3. This is after Rivers, with a 10-point lead, brought his starters back in. Like, oh, shit.
Oh, he'd taken everybody out?
Yeah, and they closed the gap. They brought him back in. Still had a 10-point lead, kind of like what the Warriors did the other night. And then Steph was like, oh, hey, guess what? I'm still playing. No more game. But just kept playing and playing and playing. And Buddy, playing great defense. And then the last 1.8 left on the clock.
That's when I turned it back on.
The Kings... They grab a miss from Crawford in the corner. Instead of calling a timeout, run it down the floor, gets it to McLemore. McLemore takes a atypical Ben McLemore out of control shitbag shot, and this is the very first time in my life I've been happy to see that kind of shot from him because the ball landed in Willie's hands. Willie puts it up for the layup, gives the Kings a 1-point lead with 1.8 to go, and it was just a great team win. The bench was excited, jumping around. I haven't seen that in a long time. Well, I've seen that every game since Demarcus got traded. But it got me thinking about two things. One, if Demarcus was on the team, they would have called a timeout because he wouldn't have been able to push the floor quick enough.
Right.
They would have went into a set. He would have got the ball. He would have dribbled it around. He would have bounced it off his foot. He would have been double teamed. Something would have happened. He would have
forced up some kind of bad shot.
He would have either lost the ball or taken the shot, complained to the refs. Kings would have lost.
Yep.
And it got me thinking about this, and it's a question I have to you. Given what we know about Demarcus Cousins, and given what we've seen from Buddy Hield, have the Kings won this trade?
Okay, we've talked about this every week since the trade happened.
But it's really starting to come together, and I'll give you my reasoning behind it. And I say yes.
I think that we're ahead in the trade. That I think the pieces are there to make it a win. We just have to make sure everything follows through. Right now, I'd say that we're ahead if we want to put something like that. The thing that I noticed today, and I watched about 15 minutes of the game total. I forgot that it was on and was watching the NCAA game and then turned on the Kings game, and then they were down by 15, so I turned it off. There was a play, and I think it was who was it? Somebody fouled. And it was a foul at half court, fouled away from the ball. And they gave him a clear path foul. I think this. I watched so much basketball today.
Chris Levine with the stat of the night. First team since 2012-13 to blow an 18-point lead with 5 minutes left.
Right. Anyway, so whoever it was, and I couldn't see who it was because I couldn't see the number, was over complaining to the ref about the call, and I had no problem with it.
Right.
I had no problem with him
in a controlled
with
way.
him complaining because he was doing it in mature. I mean, they were arguing. He was arguing his point, but he wasn't showing up the referee. It wasn't storming down the middle of the court. It was over off the side of the court by the scorer's table.
It's a basketball related complaint. It's not a look at me, you're bullying me on the court.
Right. It wasn't feel sorry for me, everybody's against me, that kind of shit. It was a legitimate gripe because it was a bad foul.
TJ says, I think they have. Cousins has yet to help the Pelicans get better, and he is just as big of a distraction as he was here.
Absolutely.
I think Devos was right to get him out of town. The trade so far and the future will be in their favor. The reason why I say yes is this. It's been 7 years of Demarcus Cousins, and we know what he is as a player.
Right.
We've seen his peak. I mean, he's going to get better if he can control himself. But we pretty much know the gist of DeMarcus. We're going to get 26 and 10. He's not going to make the players around him better.
Right.
You just need to hope that he dominates on every aspect and they can't stop him.
Right.
In the, 15 games, 12 games that we've seen Buddy Hield, you can see easily that the Pelicans used him incorrectly. We're starting to see the player that we had, or that he was at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And he's flourishing under the system right now. I mean, he's not putting up gaudy numbers, but from his 6 points or whatever it was he was averaging there, he's been in double digits every game.
I think they're still learning how to play with each other.
They're learning how to play, but he's getting confidence that he never had in New Orleans. And in 12 games, to see him grow as much as he has, he's a rookie. We still have 7 years of growth with him. If he even grows, half of what DeMarcus grows into, Buddy Hield is going to be a player that makes players around him better.
Yes.
Simply for the fact that he's all hustle. He's got a beautiful shot. He doesn't give up. He loves the game for the game. It's not about look at me. I don't think Buddy Hield would have any problem sliding into the third or fourth role and being a contributor.
No, not at all.
You know what he reminds me of? It's that 94, 95, or the 95, 96 Bulls team. He reminds me of a Tony Kukoc.
Okay.
He can hit the shot when you need him to. He can score when you need him to.
Yeah.
But he is okay being third and fourth fiddle on the bench.
Yep.
Or off the bench even.
Yep.
Arguably you can't say that the Bulls wouldn't have been as good as a team without guys like Kukoc.
Oh
and all those different guys.
Not at all.
So to me, I think it's clear right now that the Kings are winning this trade.
And the other thing there's people mentioning this, but I think a lot of people are overlooking is DeMarcus being gone has opened up the game for Willie Cauley-Stein. And I think Willie Cauley-Stein and Scal
and George.
I think even more so Scal and Willie is they're going to be.
The fuck? My big ass Kings tumbler just broke.
No, it just screws in.
No, it broke.
Oh shit! It did.
All right, well, I'm taking that motherfucker back.
When did you get it?
The day that they released him.
Which was?
I don't know, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Taking it back. I'll go buy another one and then be like, hey, what the fuck?
Where's that, Jamba Juice?
Yeah.
Oh. It's opened up those two guys, to be able to do the same thing. Where I think in a couple of years, Willie Cauley-Stein's going to be that guy that's making everybody better. I think that Scal is going to be the guy that benefits from Willie Cauley-Stein and from Jesus Christ. God damn, my brain is just dead today. Scal. And what they're doing. And what Buddy Hield is doing. And making players better. I think Scal and I think Papianis and I think we still got what's-his-face from Europe coming over next year. There's definitely...
Go ahead. I have a buddy that works at Jamba Juice. I'm showing him.
Dude, I have a guy who owns Jamba Juice.
Well, then fix my damn cup.
You can't fix your cup.
Give me another cup. It's a $13 tumbler. And they made me pay for my Jamba Juice.
Just take it back. It's no big deal.
$20 tumbler. You know what? Today I went to Jamba Juice. They told me if you buy it, now you get a fucking free smoothie with it. They owe me $6 and a tumbler, Jamba Juice.
Tell me you need 2 tumblers.
Fathers.
Wow, you're really that...
I'm awake now. I took my nap.
Do we need to take a break for you to gather yourself?
Nope.
You sure?
Yep. We're good.
All right. I'm a little worried about you.
James wants to know if Rudy Opsang.
Boy.
I think for someone that blew his Achilles and should be rehabbing, I've never seen a player around a team more than Rudy Gay is right now.
It wouldn't surprise me if he does opt in. It wouldn't surprise me not. One, and we've talked about this before. He's going to have to prove that he can play again. So nobody's going to sign him if he opts out. And we've always talked about that. But that's a piece that I keep forgetting about. And if he does opt in, that's another piece that we have to play with for next year, too.
And then Barnbaum says Bogdan Bogdanovic, that guy is coming to Sacramento next season from Europe. He's not confirmed to be coming to Sacramento.
No, it's not confirmed.
But
in fact, there's been talk that
he might not.
He might not. But I think that was before the Demarcus trade.
And then, I don't think he wanted to play with Demarcus either. And then without Demarcus, I think Rudy opts in next season. Barnbaum obviously listens to our show.
Yeah, there was a video I saw on Facebook, and it was somebody taking a picture of the TV, and it showed Ryan Anderson from Houston talking to DeMarcus, and then it cut to DeMarcus in the locker room, and I couldn't hear a word they were saying because I tried to turn it up as loud as I could. Did you see that video? Mm-hmm. So what was the gist?
Basically, Ryan Anderson, first of all, they asked DeMarcus about the game because he said that Ryan Anderson was just flopping. He didn't want to play defense. He was just flopping every time there was contact. And a couple of them were flops. I'll give him that. But Ryan Anderson basically said after the game, he said, DeMarcus is a world-class talent. When he's on, there's nobody better in the league. But everyone knows that if you get into his head, he can't play.
Right.
And he said, so that was the goal. I said I wanted to get up next to him, get him frustrated early. And if it took me getting elbowed in the face a couple of times, then so be it. A win's a win. And I agree with him 100%.
I do too.
The league hasn't figured him out. Piss him off.
Yeah.
It's like when I used to play and I was one of the bigger kids in school, so I was always taught to be a big man. When you were getting posted up on, it's before they took away the hand check so you could get your hand on the lower back. It was never lower back. It was love handles or right underneath the armpit, and you pinch. And you pinch and you poke and you piss that dude off so he gets out of there. Same thing with DeMarcus. Just get him throwing elbows. And
we learned the same thing playing water polo, too. And I taught the same thing in water polo because there's a lot more to grab onto.
Well, yeah.
And a lot less to grab onto, too.
And it's all underwater, so it's a lot harder to see.
And as a referee, you can't see somebody grabbing your suit.
Right.
Or grabbing something else.
Or kicking you in the dick.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick with George here in a moment. Real quick thought on this. Oakland Raiders gone?
See ya. I think it's and Goodell came out today.
Oakland put out a Hail Mary. It said, hey, we have a plan, blah, blah, blah. Goodell came out and said there's too many contingencies. There's not enough in your plan
they're gone.
For us to do it. It's going to get the vote. Hopefully, it can happen anywhere between Monday and Thursday of next week. And
the sucky thing about it, and I heard this on the radio the other day, some guy called into one of the shows, the deadline for buying season tickets for the Raiders next year is already passed. Mm-hmm. And so now they're doing all this shit. And that was a well-thought-out plan by the Raiders.
Not only that, but you know what's even worse is they have 2 more years guaranteed in Oakland because they have to release, they have to build their stadium in Vegas.
Right.
The 3rd year, they either have to go play it like UNLV or somewhere else or sign another 1-year deal with the Coliseum. So the Raiders fans could have essentially 3 more years of Raider football, maybe 4 in Oakland before that new stadium's built. How shitty is it going to be if in the next 3 years the Raiders become a championship team, win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr and that regime, and then the next year, see ya. They might as well have their parade start in Oakland and just go to Vegas. Longest parade in the history of parades, but that's all it should be if they ever win. Because
cut through Bakersfield and up.
Right, go down, get on the 580, get all the way down that way, find a freeway that connects over to the I-5. You know what I mean? I feel bad for Raider fans that have been so loyal.
But you know what? Raider fans are unique, and they're gonna love on this team, and I don't think they're going to care if they win a Super Bowl and then leave. And I've heard a couple of them say maybe they'll win a Super Bowl and then they'll suck again like they have every time they've come back to Oakland.
They get to Vegas. They can't afford it. They just hemorrhage everybody.
Right. And Derek Carr gets traded to the Niners?
Don't tease me.
I know, right?
I play Madden a lot because I'm a millennial and I play video games. Every time I do a franchise mode, unless I do like the Road to Glory where you create your own player, because then I just make myself a quarterback. I turn on forced trades so the GM can't say no. Or it'll be like, I'm offering you Colin Kaepernick and a 7th-round pick in 2022 for Derek Carr and Amari Cooper. And the Raiders GM is like, we're not going to get rid of our star player. And it's like, do you want to force this trade? And I'm like, yes. And it's like, trade accepted. Have a good day. And then I have Derek Carr and Amari Cooper.
Carr to Cooper.
I would make that deal in a heartbeat. Well, I mean, I would make a deal. Obviously, not that deal. That would never happen. But I would try to have Derek Carr on my team in a heartbeat anytime I could.
Absolutely. I wouldn't mind having Amari Cooper either.
Yeah, I would take both of them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's do this. What else is there? We talked about the Sirens. We talked about the Republic FC. We talked about the Raiders. We're going to talk about Kaepernick here in a second with George, and then we're going to preview the Giants. Just because we have to do this, I'm going to go ahead and do this.
If you or anyone you know is thinking about Facebook buying, Live, selling, or investing in real estate, they deserve to have someone working with them that not only knows what they're doing, but will explain everything that happens along the way. That person would be me, Coach Greg Baroza of Keller Williams Realty. I have 2 goals. My first goal is to coach you through the buying and selling process, making it easy to understand and as stress-free as possible, which isn't easy sometimes. My second goal is to have fun doing it. Come be a part of my team. Let me coach you or anyone you know through the real estate process. Give me a call at 916-241-8068, and let's talk about how I can coach you through the real estate process. Let me ask you one question. Who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate that I should know right now? Again, that's Greg Baroza, Keller Williams Realty, 916-241-8068.
There you go.
All right, so, yeah. And I wish you could have heard that a little bit more last night. I got a problem, Christy. Christy, you and I are going to have a problem.
Yeah, but they probably paid for their announcement.
Oh, yeah, but isn't my spotting for your announcing worth something to them?
Right?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this. And we're going to get George a call in real quick here because he's been our stats guy. He's been the guy that will throw out numbers like you wouldn't believe as far as Colin Kaepernick and Hoyer and all these guys. We talked about this a bit. We talked about this a bit at the gym the other day. Colin Kaepernick. Love him or hate him, he didn't have a bad year last year.
But they were a bad team.
They were a bad team. But he didn't have a bad year. All right, George, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Greg?
Good. So I was just telling Greg, I said, Colin Kaepernick, whether you love him or hate him, he did not have a bad year as a quarterback last year. He was just a product of a bad team. Obviously, he wants to be a starting quarterback. He wants to be paid big money. I've heard the argument, George, you even made the argument of, he wants the money. And I said, well, if he was really hurting for money, he wouldn't be giving $1 million to, this group and $50,000 or $500,000 to the kids in Somalia and Meals on Wheels and all the other crap.
It's tax time, dude.
Right, but I'm saying he has the money to throw around.
Yeah.
He has his money. He has his Beats contract and his Nike and all that other shit that he does. So I think his ego is getting in the way from him because he doesn't want to take a backup role. Do you think, and George, I'll ask you the same question, both of you guys, do you think that Colin Kaepernick is not signed because of football reasons, or is it simply because of his silent protests?
Yes. I think it's both. I think that if he were a better football player, somebody would take a flyer on him because of his protests. If he hadn't been protesting, he probably would have been signed, but only signed as a backup. So I think it's a little bit of both. The teams that need quarterbacks, and I heard this the other day, the Jets are one of the teams that need a quarterback. Well, the Jets are owned by a guy who's a big Trump supporter. He's not going to touch Colin Kaepernick. So I think but if Colin Kaepernick were throwing 35 touchdowns a year or 40 touchdowns a year, and his teams were going, 12-4, first we wouldn't get rid of him, but
right.
But he would definitely be on somebody's radar. He's just not good enough to have that hanging over his head to be signed by somebody.
What do you think, George?
I'm going to agree with Greg to an extent. I do think that it has to do with both things. I do think that it has more so to do with the what they're labeling it as, blackballing Colin Kaepernick. Do I think that Colin Kaepernick, has the athletic ability to be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Yes. Do I think that Colin Kaepernick has proven himself to a certain extent in the NFL? Yes. Do I think that Colin Kaepernick has caught a bad break these past few years? Yes. When you look at the stats and you look at the Colin Kaepernick that 49er fans fell in love with en route to a Super Bowl, en route to a 12-4 season the following season, the thing that is critical, and I think that it's key in any given situation with any football team, baseball team, basketball team, it's consistency. So when Colin Kaepernick was thriving, obviously we know his big factor in thriving was Jim Harbaugh. There's no doubting that. There's no second guessing that. We know that when Harbaugh was around, Kaepernick's confidence was through the roof, which is why he was progressing as well as he did. Now, when you look under Jim Harbaugh stuck with his guys. He stuck with Greg Roman at offensive coordinator, which, you loved at times and you hated at times as a 49er fan. And he stuck with his guy Vic Fangio at defensive coordinator. So the consistency within that 49ers team when Kaepernick was thriving, I think, is huge. Do I think that Colin Kaepernick is a better quarterback than Geno Smith? Yes. Do I think that Colin Kaepernick is a better quarterback than Mike Glennon? Yes. Is he the best quarterback available right now? Probably not. Is he considered an elite quarterback? No. But I do think that the talent is there. I do think that he is a solid football player. He has the athletic ability. As 49er fans, we've seen him do numerous things, whether it was, throwing 4 interceptions in a single half against the Arizona Cardinals, or threading the needle to where you say, damn, how did he make that pass? How did he fit it into such a tight window? So I do think that Colin Kaepernick can still be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And Greg, as we talked about before, if you watch the First Take episode with Richard Sherman and I believe it was Michael Irvin on there, and they were talking about Kaepernick, Sherman said there's 32 NFL teams in the league. Out of those 32 NFL teams, you have, about 7 or 8 quarterbacks that are considered elite. Under those 7 or 8 quarterbacks, you have an additional maybe 3 to 4 that can be put close to elite, not quite there yet. And where are the rest? So if you're talking 12, 13 quarterbacks in a 32-team league, that's still numerous teams out there that don't have that guy at quarterback. They're still trying to find that guy. And I think that with a good old line and good coaching, we have seen what Colin Kaepernick can do.
And I think that part of the decline of Kaepernick was Harbaugh's ego. He didn't want to admit that things were going wrong. He kept him out there. He wanted to prove that Kaepernick could be like an elite quarterback. And on the flip side of that, that got him hurt. He was trying to do all these things behind a bad offensive line. He couldn't stay healthy. Then he goes into the offseason with a magnitude of surgeries. He lost a ton of muscle mass. He lost a ton of weight. If you look at Kaepernick from 2 years ago to last year, he looked like a kid that had never lifted weights before. Like he wasn't in that true physical specimen that he was in years past. And then he got put behind a bad offensive line, a team that has Jeremy Curley as their number 1 wide receiver option. And, it's a recipe for disaster. But it was Harbaugh's ego that hurt him, and I think it's Kaepernick's ego that's keeping him down. Because if he was smart, he would put it out there. He would have his agent call every single team right now. The Bears, the Bears being one of them, I think he should have called primarily right when they started talking about throwing $14 million at a Mike Glennon, who hasn't, started a game in 4 years, and said, hey, look, I'll come in cheaper as a backup, but I want an opportunity to prove to you that I can be a starting quarterback. And then if I can start and I can win, then after that 1 year, I want to renegotiate my contract. He's stuck on superstar money. And I think his head is so bogged down by that he's ultimately hurting his chances. And obviously the protest doesn't help. But if his ego would allow him to take a step back and say, I just need a job to prove that I can be a starting quarterback, not saying, look at my resume, I'm a starting quarterback, pay me, or I'm just going to sit here and wait. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, the other thing, and kind of going back to what you said, George, I was a big Colin Kaepernick fan. I think
I never was, just to put that on the record.
You were a little bit when he was doing well.
No, I was a Niner fan, but I've always been a Alex Smith fan.
And I think you're right that a lot of his success was due to Harbaugh. But how much of his success was due to the style of offense they were running when he was successful? How many times after defenses learned how to play the read option has Colin Kaepernick really shown himself as a quality quarterback? I just don't think I mean, yeah, he had a decent year last year, but I'm not counting last year. Last year was a fluke. I just don't think. I think that he was good for that 2 years of read option because he's fast. He's got a big arm. Because of the read option, receivers were open a lot more. I know he can thread the needle, but he doesn't do it a whole lot. I think he was the shining star.
He was the flash in the pan.
He was the result of the read option success. His success was built around the read option.
Well, and not only that too, and George, I know you want to comment on that, but the other thing too, though, and I believe it was Teddy Bruschi was on ESPN about a year ago, and he pretty much pointed out something that I've talked about on this show for years now. Kaepernick doesn't have the football IQ to read a defense, and when they were doing the read option and they were doing all those things, he'd start the play, he'd see what linebacker would crash down, and then he would decide to keep the ball or run it. And that worked out well, but then defenses figured out that he didn't have that ability to read. They just dropped a linebacker in spy coverage. They disguised the coverage with him, disguised the blitz, did a delayed blitz, and it would throw Kaepernick off, and then he couldn't hit a check down because he would panic. His feet would get too fast for him. He didn't know if he should stay in the pocket or otherwise. And once defenses figured him out, I think that's ultimately where, and I brought it up with Harbaugh, they didn't allow their mentality to make adjustments. They just said, no, just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to work. When in reality, if you can't read a defense and you can't see what scheme they're throwing at you, you're not going to be a successful quarterback.
Yeah. Now, to touch on Greg's initial point of Kaepernick, relying so heavily on that read option, this is again where stats come in. In the 2012, divisional playoffs, where Kaepernick just flat out humiliated the Green Bay Packers, both with his arm and more so with the read option. You have a team that gets humiliated like that, gets knocked out of the playoffs. Kaepernick then goes on to Super Bowl. Obviously, loses the Super Bowl. That following season, who was the 49ers' Week 1 opponent? The Green Bay Packers. At Candlestick Park, I was at that game. I watched Colin Kaepernick destroy the Green Bay Packers yet again, which was a team that had all offseason to prep for what they were humiliated by in the read option. They had all offseason to prep for Colin Kaepernick, who humiliated them. And how did Kaepernick beat the Packers following up in Week 1 of that following season? It wasn't by running. It wasn't so much the read option. It was his arm. He threw for 415 yards on the Green Bay Packers. He connected with Anquan Bolden, who was signed that offseason as if they had been playing together for 2 to 3 seasons. That chemistry was through the roof that game. And again, to your point, Greg B., we all know that when Kaepernick started off, he pretty much would snap the ball. He'd look for his primary, which was 90% of the time, I feel like, Michael Crabtree. And if it wasn't there, his next instinct was to run.
Right.
If you look at the Colin Kaepernick from, those divisional playoffs when he took the league by storm to the Colin Kaepernick as of last season or the season before, you can see him, trying to learn how to progress those reads, trying to learn how to read a defense, trying to, make his reads. He did work out with Kurt Warner one off season, trying to work on those things, trying to be that quarterback that, can read a defense and can also kill you with his legs. And I've said it since day one. If you compare Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson side by side, I think Kaepernick has the better ability. I think he has the better arm, the faster feet. He is better than Russell Wilson. Where Russell Wilson becomes a better overall quarterback than Colin Kaepernick is his football IQ.
Right.
We see Russell Wilson dance around. He's looking for his reads. Okay, read one's not there. Read two's not there. Read three's not there. Okay, now I'm going to spin. Now I'm going to buy some time. I'm still looking to throw. Okay, there's nothing there. Now I'm going to run. And to do these things, it's very, very critical, as we all know, to have a solid offensive line.
Right.
So the unfortunate part for Colin Kaepernick is when he had that solid offensive line, the Joe Staley and the Mike Upati, and, Staley's still there, but Upati and Davis and Boone and all these guys that are, a solid O-line. I mean, which is why our run game was always so deadly. You had that O-line and, you were at a point where you were looking for your primary, and if it wasn't there, you were running. Now that you are trying to go through your reads and progress your reads, your offensive line is declining. So it's giving you less and less and less time to be able to find these reads. So I feel like a lot of the panic that we have seen from Colin Kaepernick obviously comes from, my line isn't what it used to be. These guys are coming in a lot faster. What am I doing when I, check my primary and I have, a DN coming right after me?
Right. No, and I understand that. And like I said, I mean, I tend to try to not take last year as a measuring tool on that, simply for the fact that, there's, I don't think any quarterback would have been successful. I mean, there'd be a few, but most quarterbacks aren't going to be successful, in that situation. But I mean, honestly, I think it all comes down to it, ability or not. I think it's ego that is blocking Colin Kaepernick's path in the NFL right now. And it's, if he feels that he has the ability to get back to being that 2012 quarterback, and obviously, nothing against his ability. I mean, he's got the abilities, athleticism and whatnot. But if he can prove that he learned, he's increased his IQ and he can still play and he put his muscle back on and he's back to normal, then he just needs to shut the hell up and make a phone call and be like, hey, I'll take a vet minimum. I'll take a 1-year deal, comparable to this guy, whoever it may be, because you mentioned it a minute ago. He's better than a Geno Smith. He's better than a Mark Sanchez who just signed with Chicago. He's better than a Mike Glennon who's going to be the starter in Chicago with $14 million per year. I mean, I can go through a list of quarterbacks. He's better than Barkley who signed as a backup for the Niners. It's just I think that even political stance aside, I think Colin Kaepernick right now is Colin Kaepernick's biggest enemy, and it's going to be his roadblock.
And I think when we talk about the quarterbacks that are being signed, teams that are signing these quarterbacks aren't necessarily signing the best option. Do I think that Tony Romo is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick? A healthy Tony Romo, one that's not, getting sacked and being out and missing half.
Keyword healthy.
Yes. Exactly. So do I think that Tony Romo, when he's healthy is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick? Yes. And, Tony Romo's still out there. Do I think that Jay Cutler is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick? I'm not sold on that. There may be teams that do view Cutler as a better quarterback, and
I think Cutler. I think Cutler goes the same way as Romo and Kaepernick. It depends on what Cutler you get. If you get the one with the right mindset and he's healthy and the shoulder's not bothering him, I take Cutler over Kaepernick. 9 times out of 10. But the problem is, just like Romo, you don't know what quarterback you're going to get. You're either going to get Glass Romo or you're going to get led my team to the playoffs 6 years in a row, but just couldn't get over the hump Romo. And, I think both of those quarterbacks, if they're healthy and they're in the right mindset, you take over Kaepernick. But those guys have the pedigree to look at a team and say, what I've done over the long term pay me to be your starter or whatever. Kaepernick really only had 2 good years that he has to fall back on after a really terrible year in the injury plague season before that. So I think that's kind of, like I said, that's what's hurting him. It's Colin Kaepernick. It's not necessarily the political stance. It's not Trump's tweets. It's not Trump's bullshit. It's Colin Kaepernick is blocking Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, and I think that, what I'm trying to say is Colin Kaepernick, is, I'm assuming, looking for a starting role. And as he should be. Like I said, I do think that Colin Kaepernick can be a starting quarterback in this NFL league. I don't think that he's a Geno Smith type quarterback that has just proven over and over again, you're just not getting it done. Now, obviously, we all know if there's anything that Colin Kaepernick can, put in bold writing on his resume, it is something that Tony Romo and Jay Cutler cannot, and that's the playoff stats.
Right.
Colin Kaepernick, when he has made it to the playoffs, is a force to be reckoned with. He was a force to be reckoned with the Packers. He was a force to be reckoned with the Carolina Panthers when he came into Cam Newton's house and Supermaned on Cam Newton and, took those Carolina Panthers out. He was a force to be reckoned with for a majority of the Seattle game with the Richard Sherman tip pass. I mean, Seattle's defense was.
I don't even put that game on Kaepernick. That game, the momentum change
on Greg Roman.
Well, but not even that. That one, to me, that game falls on the momentum shift that the refs gave Seattle on that Bowman interception when he blew up his knee. They don't even go back and review the turnover, and that shifts the game. Not only do you make a goal line stop on defense, which would have been huge, it would have basically locked the game up for the Niners, but you lose your star player at the same time. So not only do you lose the momentum, but you lose your player. I mean, all wind out of that sail is gone. So I don't even put that one on Kaepernick. I mean, no. He made the same bonehead throw that he made in the Super Bowl to
yeah, but that was it. They called the same play 4 times in a row.
Right, exactly.
And he wasn't smart enough to check down.
And again, that is, the Greg Roman play calling that we also, loved at times and hated majority of the other times. I don't know many offensive coordinators that are going to, try and throw it to Michael Crabtree 3 straight times in a Super Bowl when you have a solid O-line and you have Frank Gore as your running back.
And you have Colin Kaepernick as your quarterback?
Maybe Pete Carroll?
Exactly. And not just Colin Kaepernick, but, the new face Colin Kaepernick, the dual threat Colin Kaepernick that was shredding defenses left and right. So I mean, again, you take those playoff stats and, they speak for themselves. And again, it just goes to show, I mean, following up that NFC championship loss, comes the move to Levi Stadium, the controversy in the locker room, reports coming out about there's parting ways. You have many injuries that year and you still finish, 8-8 as a team. But I mean, when you look at the film of Colin Kaepernick, mainly referencing his playoff appearances, the kid can ball. He has proven that he can ball, and he just needs the right fit, which may be, a key reason as to why he hasn't been signed or he's not signing. The fit for him was, Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, and he had Jeep Chris as his quarterbacks coach, which then became the offensive coordinator, and we know how much of a disaster that was. But
if you want to, Jeep Chris and Jimmy Ray, best offensive coordinators in the history of ever. Anyways, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think we were going to spend this much time on a former 49er. I wouldn't be shocked if he comes back and signs like a 1-year deal with San Francisco and just plays here.
Now, Greg, remember what I told you. As much as I feel that the 49ers signed Brian Hoyer based off of tremendous, pretty much half of a season that he played with Chicago last year, I don't believe that he will be the week 1 starter. I don't know if that means the Niners are, going to re-sign Kaepernick. I don't know if that means the Niners are thinking of trading back into the draft and drafting Kizzer out of Notre Dame, who John Lynch seems to be, very, very eyes on with that kid at the pro days. He's been watching him for a while. I don't believe that Brian Hoyer will be Week 1 starting quarterback. So
it's funny you mentioned.
Not sure necessarily. What was that?
Oh, so you mentioned Kaiser or Kizer, whatever his name is, out of Notre Dame. Apparently, there's another quarterback that John Lynch has been enamored with, and it could happen to be a player that would be available with that second pick in the second round, and that's the quarterback out of Cal. Apparently, he's fallen in love with the quarterback out of Cal.
Really?
And if they can get lucky and get that Stanford defensive lineman, or they can get Mike Williams at 2, or if the Rams pull or if the Browns pull a Browns and end up taking Trubinsky at 1, and we can get Garrett Miles or Myles Garrett. There may be other options that fall back. And honestly, I don't think Kaiser or Kizer or Watson or those guys, I don't think they go top 15. I think those two, other than Trubinsky, I think they fall in the later rounds. The Niners may be able to trade up, into the late first round and make a move, a lot like what Denver did to get Paxton Lynch last year. So it'll be fun. I mean, the draft is coming. I mean, we're getting close. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
But let's talk about something that we actually give a damn about right now, and that's baseball. Baseball for the San Francisco Giants opens in a matter of days. The April 2nd, they open up the season for millennials again and video game nerds like myself. MLB The Show 17 comes out tomorrow night at 9 p.m. I get to go pick that up, and then I'm pretty much disappeared from... Are you a PS4 guy?
Yeah, I'm on PS4.
Oh, well, then we're going to have to play, because that's the only reason why I've kept my PS4. I have my Xbox One as well.
Waste of money.
Nope.
Dude,
waste of money.
I bought the deluxe edition with the King Griffey Jr. hat.
Exactly. That's the one right there. You got the kid on the cover with that swing and that 24 on the back.
Yep. I'll be picking it up at 9 o'clock tomorrow night on Olsen Drive in Rancho Cordova. If you're there, we'll see you. Can't wait for that shit. But anyways, baseball's back. Baseball's here. Let's talk about the San Francisco Giants. One thing I want to touch before we start talking players is, did you see the story, George? I talked to Greg about it yesterday on the way to the Sirens game. Did you see the story about Bruce Bochy's strategy for the starting rotation in spring training?
Brilliant.
No, I didn't see that.
All right. So the other day against Colorado, Samardzija starts, and he goes five scoreless innings, gave up 4 hits, and then he gets pulled. He was at like 60-something pitches. They pull him from the game. And then they show like Law or someone warm up the bullpen, and Samardzija's down in the bullpen throwing, at game speed. And they got to thinking about it, or they got to talking about it, and then I read about it the next day in the paper. Basically, right now, for any NL West team, Bruce Bochy has come out, and he did it with Cueto today. Cueto was supposed to start today against the Padres. They canceled his start, and they moved him down to a AAA game so he could get his normal throw in, but not against the Padres. Any NL West team that has one of the Giants starters in it in the spring training so far, he's limited them to 1 time through the lineup. So Bumgarner went through 2 innings the other night, pulled him after 2 innings. Samardzija had 4 or 5 innings the other day. And he's basically not allowing any NL West team to get more than 1 at-bat from against any of his starting pitchers at all. Samardzija pitched those 5 innings, went in the bullpen, got up 4 more times, and sat down 4 more times, and he basically threw a complete game from the bullpen the rest of the way. Scott Froschauer wants to talk WrestleMania.
Oh God!
We might have to do a midweek WrestleMania show, or next week it'll be the WrestleMania show.
And video games. Shoot me now.
Oh, that'd be a good show. We might have to do a midweek offshoot show.
Yeah, boy, can I be here?
You want to be here?
No.
But anyways, what do you think about that? Bochy's not allowing any NL West opponent to see his starting staff more than 1 time through the lineup.
Love you, Scott, by the way.
I mean, it makes sense when you look at it. I mean, obviously, it's within the division. We're going to play these guys numerous times throughout the season, so I can get it. At the same time, I love Bruce Bochy as a manager. I'm not going to question very much of what he does. Obviously, there's times where us as fans are saying, Why are you bringing this guy in? Why aren't you taking this guy out? Bruce Bochy has proven to be, an elite manager in this game. Obviously, 3 World Series titles. The smartness that guy has and the brains that he has for the game of baseball is through the roof to me. So, I mean, I can see why he's doing it. Again, with, facing these guys numerous times through the season, maybe there's something that he's just not wanting them to get too much of a head start or a heads up on. But, I mean, again, the Giants are, all 3 of our World Series titles were relied so heavily on our pitching. And the team as a whole, still to this day, we're very, relying on our pitching. If you look at the stats of the batting, I mean, I think Belt had 17 home runs last year and was the leader on the team. We don't have that kind of Barry Bonds that we used to, that guy that's just hitting them out there. We don't put up too many runs throughout the season. There's games where we can score, final score can be 10-2, but a lot of the games are going to be those 3-2, 2-1, 5-4 type games. So, I mean, if Bochy only wants them to go through, face the lineup one time or have their lineup face our pitcher one time, then so be it. I mean, I'm not going to argue with it or question it.
I mean, and you touched on it too. Our starting pitching throws so many innings. It makes a lot of sense to limit them in spring training, especially if they're looking good in the spring. So as of right now, it's looking a lot like the starting rotation is going to go Bumgarner, Cueto, Samardzija, Matt Moore, and Matt Cain.
Yeah.
And obviously Cain gets the nod simply for the fact that Bochy is a veteran guy. Bochy loves veterans. He always will rely on his veterans. But Beatty and Block are going to be sitting on the doorstep waiting for that door to open to slide into that 5th spot should he need it. I think that Beatty will start in Sacramento for sure, which I think will be good for him since he never got out of Double-A Richmond last year. And now that Will Smith is out with Tommy John surgery for the season, I think we're going to see Ty Block fall into that middle reliever role, keeping him fresh, keeping him against Major League Baseball batters in case maybe they need him to slide into a 5th starter or even a 6th starter like Bochy likes to do sometimes throughout the middle of the year, and keep him fresh up there and fill in for Will Smith. So. And then on top of that, for as far as pitchers go, you still, like I said, you have Block, you still have Cody Guerin, you have George Contos, you have Derek Law, who I think is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. That guy gets so fired up. You have Okert, Osich, Strickland, and Suarez, and then the big one obviously is Melancon. They finally have a legitimate closer in Mark Melancon, and as a Giants fan, I mean, I don't know that I can see, a year that I've been more excited since Wilson was in his heyday. And even then, Wilson was so erratic, like you couldn't get that Rob Nen or, even like back to like the Rod Beck days excited like you could for a guy like Mark Melancon.
Yeah, and you bring up Brian Wilson. I don't want to discredit 2012 Sergio Romo. I think that 2012 Sergio Romo was another, closer that could come in and get the job done, especially in the postseason.
We don't like to talk about Dodgers on this show.
I know. I mean, I'm excited about the Melancon signing. I think that if I had to make a prediction on him, it'll be that he leads the league in saves this year. And that's not just going based off of the kind of history repeats itself with him leading the NL over the past 2 seasons. I think that, again, as Giants fans, we watch these games. We know how these games go. It's a lot of games that are being won and lost between 1 and 2 runs. And, if you look at the stats from last year, obviously we were on a tear in the beginning, and then that second half came in. I believe they were 30-5 42 in the second half.
Yeah, best team in baseball the first half, worst team in baseball the second half.
Yeah. So, they were 57 and 33 going into the All-Star break, and then you hit that second half, and you're 30 and 42. And I believe that the loss to the Cubs that ended our season, I believe that was the 32nd blown save through the year. So, we've seen it happen often last year with Romo, with Casilla, with Strickland. These guys coming in and blowing these saves. And, even if you take a fraction of those blown saves away, it's a whole nother story as far as, the Giants aren't going into the playoffs as a wild card. The Giants are going in as NL West champions.
Right.
And I think that Melanson is that guy. I think that he is that 2010 Brian Wilson that is going to turn things up a notch and, not be the one coming in to blow these saves, but to secure these wins for us.
And it's safe to say that there won't be a balk-off this year.
Oh, God damn it. Or two of them.
That was the worst. I think that was the bottom of the barrel of baseball that I have ever seen. Even in the years that the Giants absolutely sucked. To see that balk-off game against, I think it was San Diego, just, I was done.
Yeah, for sure. I got to give Greg credit. When you combine Greg and credit together, you get Craig. I got to give Greg credit. We talked about Michael Morse on the Rivercats preview, and he put it out there and said basically that it'd be dumb for Morse not to come to Sacramento and rehab. And we talked about that because he said Sacramento or San Francisco or bust. He wasn't going to play for anyone else. He was going to retire if he didn't make the club. All accounts looked like he was going to make the club. And then he hurts his leg. He hurts his hamstring. And he came out yesterday, Michael Morse did, and basically said, look, you know what? I had a great spring. I'm not ready to retire. I'm going to go ahead and accept my assignment to Sacramento. I'm going to start there in rehab, start the season in AAA, rehab the leg, and I'm going to come back up to the bigs. So I think that's going to be great for Sacramento. Not only is it going to have an opportunity for a big bat that can play left field and first base, but leadership. I mean, it's going to be a great piece for the Giants with Michael Morse coming out there. Then also you're going to have Williamson and likely Gorkis Hernandez to be your backup outfielders. You have and then Tomlinson basically is your utility infield guy. But as of right now, I think that the starting lineup and batting order is going to go similar to this. Greg, I want to get your opinion on this, and then George, I'll ask for yours as well. And I think we've seen this lineup a lot in spring training right now. You're going to have Denard Span batting first and playing center field. You're going to have Brandon Belt batting second, playing first base. He spent almost the entire spring batting second, and he's having a killer spring.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're going to have Hunter Pence batting third and playing right field. Buster Posey in the cleanup spot playing catcher. In my mind, I have Joe Panik playing fifth, or batting fifth, playing second base. After the cleanup, you ideally want to have another leadoff hitter to set the table for the lower guys. And now you have no better guy to set the table for than a Brandon Crawford batting sixth, playing shortstop. Eduardo Nunez at third base, batting seventh. Jared Parker looks like he'll be the opening day left fielder, batting eighth, and then your pitcher spot. Or if it's Bumgarner, you can have Bumgarner. I can see Nunez batting ninth with Parker seventh, and then Bumgarner, Cueto, or Samardzija. Hell, any of them really can bat eighth, and then you have an extra leadoff man at the bottom. Yahoo Sports has it: Span, Belt, Pence, Posey, Crawford, Nunez, Panik, Parker, pitcher. I don't know that you can bury Joe Panik in the seventh spot in a lineup. When he's hitting, he's one of the best hitters on the roster. Greg, you scoffed at Belt at 2. What don't you like about that?
My ideal lineup, because I think Belt's a little bit more. I think he could be more of a power hitter. So my ideal lineup is Span, Panik. I think you put Buster third because you want him up as much as you possibly can. I think you put Pence fourth. I think you put or Belt fourth and Pence fifth. Crawford sixth, and then 7th, 8th, and 9th is 7th, 8th, and 9th. I just think, to me, that makes a little bit more sense. But again, I'm not going to argue with Bochy. The other thing that I heard the other day is, what about batting Buster leadoff? Because Chicago's doing that with one of their studs. Is in the springtime, they've been batting him first. And that gets your best hitter up more times per game, and could get him 50 or 60 more bats.
Does he have the? Can you really afford to have his legs out there getting 50 or 60 more at bats, playing catcher every night?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like if Buster Posey, being the batter he was your third baseman or your first baseman, I don't have a problem with that. But if you have him out there in the squat and he's stubborn as he is and wants to play as many games as possible, then his rest days are at first base. I don't know if you can afford to have Buster Posey getting 50 or 60 more at bats.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think, George?
I mean, I could see the lineup being something along these lines, and then I'll explain the reasoning after. I could see Span obviously being the leadoff. I could see Belt being in that 2 spot as he has been. I believe that Posey will be in the 3 spot rather than Pence. I think that Posey and Pence will flip-flop those 3 and 4 spots to have Posey third and fourth. I see Crawford being 5th, Nunez 6th, Panik 7th, and Jared Parker 8th. Now, again, when you look at the Giants and you look at the critical positions that they get in, a lot of these, close games are because we get these runners on base and they're stranded.
Yep.
So when you got a guy like Joe Panik that is, a proven number 2 hitter, the guy is making contact left and right. I believe his average is somewhere close to 270, up there towards the 300 mark. When you have that kind of guy batting that late in the lineup, I think that it gives you more opportunity. And Nunez batting ahead of him, I think that it gives more opportunity to try and get those runners that are on score later on in that lineup.
And it's almost like having another. It's almost like having another leadoff and second place hitter down at the bottom of the lineup too. So I kind of like that. The only question I have about Belt batting second is something you mentioned with Panik, and that is contact. Because Belt is as streaky is. And he'd be perfect for 40 or 50 games, but then he's going to go through a slump of 30 or 40 games where he can't hit anything. I mean, he couldn't hit it off a tee. And that's what worries me about that, is just his inconsistency about having him batting second.
Now, here's my question, too. Let me put you guys in the – sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, George. And Belt really comes down to, can he stay healthy the whole year too? Which I don't think he can. Let me ask you this: let me put you guys both in the role of Bruce Bochy here. Obviously, you have Parker batting 8th right now in left field. Parker's got a decent bat. He strikes out the least amount of any team or any player on the team, but he's ultimately just holding a place for Michael Morse. It looks like, to come in and be the left fielder. Assuming he continues to have a season like he had, can you bury a big bat like Michael Morse down at the 8th spot, or do you need to shift everyone down and put him at like 6, and then that moves Crawford and Nunez down 1?
I think you put him 4th.
You put him 4th and
drop everybody else down
and
1.
Put Pence and Posey 1. I don't know that you can have. I don't know that Michael Morse is consistent enough to be a 5th or 4th place hitter.
Yeah, I don't know about putting Morse in that 4th spot. I mean, obviously, these lineups, as much as we talk about them, it's going to be changed so much through the season.
Oh, yeah.
We know what Bruce Bochy does. We know how Bruce Bochy, approaches these games. He's going to alter it to where he sees it best fit. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Belt starts off in that number 2 spot and then later on in the season goes down to a 5-6 hitter. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Panik is in that 7th spot to start off the season and he, gets bumped back up to that number 2 spot. It's just so, Bochy's going to alter it where he sees best fit. So
I'm going to go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. The one thing that I wouldn't see happening is Buster Posey being in the leadoff. And, obviously you got to love Buster Posey. 4-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, NL MVP, NL Rookie of the Year, comeback player of the year, after that brutal leg injury when he was playing catcher against the Marlins. The thing that is frustrating, if you could take any aspect of Buster Posey to say this is the frustrating part of this guy, it's his speed. I've seen Buster Posey be thrown out many a time. So to put him in that number one spot, is Buster Posey going to make contact? Yeah. Can Buster Posey bat? Yeah. Can he rack the ball? Yeah. But when, it's a ground ball or something as such, is he going to make it to first and beat the throw out? No, I don't believe so. So obviously, you want your leadoff guy, to do as a leadoff is supposed to do and to get on base, whether it's a single, whether it's a double, start the game off and try and get this guy on base, and ultimately put him in scoring position.
But what made me think about it is I read an article that said Kyle Schwarber is going to be the leadoff hitter for the Cubs, and he's not your traditional leadoff hitter. And I would compare him pretty favorably to Buster. And that's kind of what made me think about it. Now, I wasn't saying we should do it. I just thought, it might be, if we want to shake things up a little bit, that could be an option because maybe, and we all know that sports are copycat, all sports are copycat leagues. And if Schwarber starts busting the ball all over the place and getting on, and the Cubs go on a big winning streak, who's to say that that's not going to be something that a lot of teams do, taking their best hitter and putting him in leadoff. Well,
here's what I think is going to happen. It's not going to be Buster Posey that bats leadoff at some point this year. I think it's going to be Brandon Crawford who gets put in that leadoff spot.
I can see that.
Crawford has, since the end of last season, through the World Baseball Classic, all spring, he has been one of the best hitters in baseball. And what's scary about Brandon Crawford is a better hitter against lefties than he is righties. So therefore, you can't just throw in you can't be like, oh, it's a matchup thing. We'll put him against we'll bring in a lefty and shut him down. No, he hits the ball better. So I can see Crawford moving up into the 1 spot. I can see Posey back to even to 5. I can see Belt down as far as 6 or 7 if he continues his slumps. Panic might be back in the 2 spot, but like you said, it's all about Boch. Bochy loves to mix things up. Hell, I wouldn't be shocked if one of these days you just see fucking Bumgarner hit leadoff just because he can. You know what I mean? Like, and it's funny, they asked Bochy about how spring's been going a couple days ago, and he said, everything's going good, everyone's hitting. Posey's hitting the ball well. Him and Crawford had a really good WBC. Everyone's looking healthy. He says, my only real big concern is Bumgarner's not hitting the ball very well. And obviously, kidding around about that. But then the next game, Samardzija comes up and hits a double out off the wall. So, it's going to be one of those things. TJ says he would attend any game with Bumgarner leading off. TJ also said he wants to see Brandon Crawford hitting at the 5th spot. But, I think that this year, aside from, a lot of different, obviously the even year, thing has been broken, but now we still have the odd year curse that the Giants have always had, just a terrible year following an even year run. I think this is the first year looking at the roster up and down and then looking at what Sacramento has in the pipe. This should be a year where the Giants should be able to, barring injury, contend for the NL West easily this year.
It's all going to come down to starting pitching. Pitching.
And then
definitely
starting pitching. There's a kid. What was the name? Was it Slater? Was it Slater? The kid that Robert talked about, the reliever that's going to be in Sacramento.
Oh, that throws 103,
105.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna use my media pass, and I'm just gonna sit in the bullpen. What are you guys doing here? Don't worry about it. I'm waiting for him to throw. And just sit there. I won't say a word. I won't take a photo. I'll give him water. There you go. Like, I just want to see what 105 miles per hour looks up close. I mean, that's going to be ridiculous. Yeah. And then, I watched the game today. Arroyo looked good. Huang or Wong, or whatever the hell his name is. Robert told us how to say it. We couldn't pronounce it. He made a hell of a sliding stop at third today in front of Arroyo, who was playing shortstop. and gunned out whoever it was that was batting across the diamond. It was beautiful. Tomlinson's looking good. Mac Williamson's hitting the snot out of the ball before he got hurt. Trevor Brown's, we didn't even talk about backup catchers. I mean, the Giants have Nick Hundley and Trevor Brown still in the weights. And then another name, I was looking at the active, the 25 man. Let me see if you remember this name that he snuck in last year, had a hell of a year. His Dave Fleming tweets on the board in the press box. Fucking Connor Gillespie.
Oh, yeah. Connor effing Gillespie,
another dude that's out there. So there's a lot going on right now. It's not Slania. That, there's a lot of hope right now for the Giants season, and I cannot wait
it's gonna be
for
fun
it to get started. And not only that, but my work schedule finally gives me a fucking Saturday off schedule, which means I can get my ass down to San Francisco and watch some goddamn baseball games. Wednesday, Saturday. If it sucks for any other reason, aside from this, I have matinee baseball on a Wednesday, and I have Saturday baseball during the weekend. Thank you, Apple. But George, I mean, what Greg and I have talked about it ad nauseum, how excited we are with some of the players that have come up and, how excited we are for baseball. You have it a little bit differently, though. Your basketball team's actually good.
Is he a Warrior fan?
He's a Warrior fan.
Just a little bit.
So when the Warriors, make their run and the Giants start making their run, and then your dad has his tickets to the Rivercats, so I'm sure you and Michelle go check out some Rivercats games. How do you juggle it? I mean, what is it like? Give us a little bit of a glimpse into the life of a basketball fan who goes to the playoffs. I mean, we haven't seen it in 11 years. How do you juggle it?
Oh man, it's a lot. I mean, everyday life is enough as is with work, gym, Michelle, kids, all of that stuff. So it's just constant. I mean, if I'm not able to sit down and watch a game at the time it starts, you can ask Michelle. It's getting recorded, and I'll watch it later because I hate hearing from outside sources. I don't want to hear the score of the game or anything as such until I can watch it for myself and see, how it all went down and how it all happened. Michelle and I will normally try and get out to normally we shoot for 5 to 6 Giants games a year in total. There's times where she can get into it, and I'm excited for this season because I feel like it's going to be more for her to get into. For me, I mean, we went to the Fan Fest together, obviously, and the girls were outside chatting, and me and you were in the dugout store looking at game worn jerseys and game used bases and all of those such things. So I'm excited for this year's Giants team. If there's 2 things that I'm looking most forward to, it's going to be our batting this year. As far as I see more home runs being hit, I see better averages. I want to see how it shakes up as far as what they end up doing with the starting lineups in the batting order. And Melanson, obviously, I think that's going to be huge for us. And the Giants are a team that I appreciate the fact that all of these players, for the most part, are homegrown.
Right.
Obviously, Pence came from the Phillies. We had in 2010, we had the Renteria signing, the Uribe signing. As of recently, we had the Cueto. Yeah, I mean, we signed these key players, and that's what I love about the Giants is we're not a team that is what the New York Yankees used to be as far as trying to buy their talent.
So,
we're a team that's very homegrown, and, we have key acquisitions here and there that, I mean, the Cueto signing was huge for us last year. I mean, he was dominant last year. Yeah. So I like that, and, they can ball on all levels of the field. I mean, there's games, again, where they're scoring 9, 10 runs. There's games where, we're seeing the defense thrive. And, I'm happy for Crawford because as much as I am a Giants fan, I promise that I'm not saying this as, just a biased, big-headed Giants fan. I do truly believe that Brandon Crawford is the best defensive shortstop in MLB right now. So to, combine that glove and then the defensive skills that he has with his bat starting to come around, it is going to be something exciting to watch.
And Panic's was not shabby playing defense either. So up the middle, I would put our shortstop at second baseman, pretty much our middle infield up against anybody's in the major leagues as best.
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
aside from his streaky hitting, you got Brandon Belt's got one of the best gloves at first base in the league. I mean, he can pick a ball out of the dirt that you never thought would be possible.
Right.
Nunez is going to be a really good, serviceable third baseman until Arroyo's ready, and then I've watched film. I was watching film today on Arroyo from Sacramento. We lost George.
Lost George.
You're going to be blown away when you. Sorry about that, bud. You're going to be blown away, Greg, when you see Arroyo in person. Yeah. Not only can the kid hit the snot out of the ball, but his glove work is remarkable for someone that's never played third base until last season.
Wow. It's kind of amazing. Don't you see how the system works? Compare the Giants. You said, George, you said something pretty interesting, is most of the team is homegrown. Well, if you look to the NFL, what is the one team that is primarily homegrown that picks up a free agent signing or a trade here and there?
New England.
What team in the NBA is primarily homegrown that signs?
San Antonio.
So, it amazes me how that works and how people don't copy that more often and just go for that big home run swing, and it doesn't work. And we're seeing now probably 10th year of Sabian and his regime, and Bochy and his regime of grown these guys from the minor leagues. And there was a time before those guys showed up that our minor league system, the minor league system for the Giants, was horrible.
Well, and the thing is, too, people like to look back at the Rivercats last year missing the playoffs, and then you look back at the Grizzlies years for a long time, and they were terrible. But they forget to look back a couple years before Bumgarner and Posey and Lincecum and all those guys came up. The Giants farm system was one of the best out there because of the fact that they had all these young guys. And then when you actually bring guys up and you don't just trade them away, A's fans, your farm system takes a hit.
Yeah.
And this is one of the deepest farm leagues that the Giants have had in a long time in Sacramento. The Giants roster is great right now. Greg, I'll ask you the same thing that George said. He said he has two things he's most looking forward to, and that is, damn it, I already went blank on the first one.
How the lineup sets up.
The batting of the lineup. I was trying to think that you singled out one player. I was like, was it Posey? The batting of the order and Melanson. So for you, what are the top two things that you're looking forward to?
Well, I think Melanson's a proven star, so I'm excited about that. I want to see what the middle inning relievers do, because I think that's one of the big question marks. And I want to see if this team can stay healthy. And I think those two particular aspects for me are the two things. If those two things can come around, if we can stay healthy and consistent all the way through the year, and we're going to have injuries, but have those injuries to be short term in places that we can fill spots in. And if the middle inning relievers can come through and not blow a bunch of saves and not have a bunch of guys hurt and not be a revolving door of pitchers, there's no question this team can be. Who knows what this team can do.
Right. And
what about you?
My two right now is going to be watching Brandon Crawford. Like George said, I think he's the best defensive shortstop in all of baseball.
He was getting tons of praise. I was watching the championship game, and the play-by-play guys were doing nothing but, there goes to Crawford again. That's an out. Yep. I mean, doing nothing but praising him. And I think they pretty much, it came down to Crawford, Adam Jones, and then the pitcher for the most valuable player. I mean, and they had no problem with Crawford being the MVP.
Yeah, and he deserved every bit of that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see Crawford continue to grow. I think last year was...
Greg, I gotta show you a picture. So just while you're touching on Brandon Crawford before you go, also I got to show you a picture. I got one of Crawford's autographed pictures when he pretty much first became a Giant, and he has zero facial hair, and his hair was probably cut about as short as mine.
It's what he looked like. It's when he looked more and more like Zac Efron.
Right, exactly.
It's hilarious. But I think this year was the first year, or last year was the first year that we finally saw Crawford's bat come to life. For years he had the great glove but never had the bat. Now he's starting.
Well, he had the bat. It just wasn't consistent.
It was like a Brandon Belt bat.
Consistent. Yeah.
And I was watching ESPN, and someone made a statement that. No, it wasn't ESPN. I was listening to Rome or somebody talking about World Baseball Classic, and someone called in, and in typical Rome fashion, he just brushed it off because it's how he is. Someone said that they could see Brandon Crawford being the only shortstop in this generation that's going to hold a candle to Derek Jeter. Wow. Glove work, leadership, clutch batting.
Wow.
And I know he's nowhere close to that now, but can you imagine if he even gets close to that Jeter level? Because honestly, I think he has a better glove than Jeter does or did, but he doesn't have that batting intangible. He doesn't have that leadership yet that made Jeter.
And he doesn't need to because Posey's that guy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just two different generations. I do think that Crawford, as it stands right now, probably does have the better glove. But I think that, if you guys have been watching basketball recently, you've seen, Booker from Phoenix go off for 70 the other night. And there's already comparisons of the kid in this league, right, comparing him to Kobe Bryant.
No,
and it's like ultimately, you can compare these guys all day long, but it's just two different calibers of players. I mean, Jeter played among some of the greatest to ever play. I mean, growing up as a kid, at least for me, being a baseball player all my life, the guys that I was wanting to see was the Barry Bonds, obviously, and the Derek Jeters and the A-Rods and Ken Griffey, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, these guys. And it's just they come from a whole nother era.
Right, exactly.
And so it's hard to compare these guys now to the guys of then, and I think that you can make the case for, you can compare Posey to numerous great catchers and say, Posey's the better player, and it's just a different era.
Right. No, I agree, and I wasn't necessarily making the comparison, but I'm just saying if he can even get close to that level, it's going to be amazing. And then my second thing, aside from Crawford, honestly, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be on the same page with me, it's Eduardo Nunez. I want to see what a healthy Eduardo Nunez can do at third base, because as long as he's having a good year, because he could bat in the leadoff spot, he can hit some home runs. He stole 40 bases last year, and half the year he had a hamstring issue. If we could get a healthy Eduardo Nunez, who's still under arbitration for another year, that means they don't have to streamline Arroyo coming up. And Christian Arroyo could spend the entire year until September call-ups in Sacramento and getting acclimated and not rush him to the point where you're like, hey, you've only been playing third base for a year and a half now. Go play in the Major League Baseball level. And, I think that just cements the future even more for the Giants if Eduardo Nunez can stay healthy. And then obviously you have Gillespie or Tomlinson, or more Gillespie than Tomlinson, who could play third base and keep Arroyo down.
Oh, Tomlinson can play third base.
Yeah, but I think Gillespie would get the nod over Tomlinson. He's more of the middle guy. But
I'm more interested in Greg. Who did you refer to earlier in the conversation? Who many people have said forgot about, that was huge for us last season in the postseason?
It's Gillespie.
Yep. So I'm more interested to see if there comes a time where. The time is certainly now. I think that Nunez is going to, win that battle at third base, and he will be the starting third baseman coming up this season. But where does Connor Gillespie come into the mix if Nunez is, happens to fall off or isn't performing to what we're hoping he will perform to?
Exactly. But yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be, every night we have something to watch. It's not, waiting for things to come around. I can't wait for it. George, what's up?
I was going to say, just what makes it more enjoyable is as great of a team as the Giants have, proven themselves to be in these past years. They're just a great organization, and they're fun to watch. Obviously, you and Sheena and the girls will go to a game. I think AT&T Park is the nicest ballpark that there is in the MLB. And when you come with a great organization and a great fan base and, the excitement that is brought to that stadium, it's just unreal. So you mix that with what these guys can do, what their potential is for this year with Crawford and the Belt Batten 2 possibly, and the Melanson, and, obviously our starting pitchers, Bumgarner, Cueto. It makes it all that much more fun to watch.
It's going to be a ton of fun, George. I definitely appreciate you coming on and speaking.
Yeah, thanks, George. That was awesome.
We'll definitely get out to a game this year. Or more than one game. Take the kids out, take just the wives or the ladies out, and we'll take in a couple of games. And River Cats too. We'll make it all work. But I'm looking forward to what to play on the show. Also, like I said, I'm going to get mine at the 9:00 release tomorrow night. I don't know if you're picking yours up early or if you pre-ordered it at the same GameStop.
I'm getting mine on the way home tonight.
You can't.
Well, I can, yeah. I'm getting mine on the way home tonight.
Right on. And just throw it out the window and hope someone catches it.
Yeah. I'm going to stop at Jamba Juice and get a Jamba Juice tumbler
too. Fuck
yeah.
But anyways, George, I really appreciate it, man. We'll definitely have you on, and as the season comes along, we'll have you come in and do a show also. But definitely many things for you, or to you, I should say. And,
thanks, George. That was awesome.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up. So for George, for Greg, this was episode 206.2. 6.2. And to the 17 that are currently listening on Mixlr. And
thank you very much.
And the 275 folks who have viewed on Facebook Live, we definitely give you guys all a thanks. And we will be back.
Tell people about it. Spread the word. And good night, Larry.
Good night, guys. Thanks, George.
All right. Thanks, George.